Hello, everyone, and welcome to Stacking the Boxes pregame show. This is the NFL in Week 3. We kicked it off Thursday night with the Browns and the Steelers, but who wants to remember that game? So here we are, Sunday afternoon, a full slate all the way through. We will have a cool, crisp 14 games today. Feels like fall weather outside, at least outside here in Chicago. I don't know what it feels like for you, Ian, but it feels like football weather here as we get going in a week where there are not a lot of big lines, very tight. So we should have some very good action if the gambling odds tell us anything.
Yeah, for sure. I can't believe it's week 3 already. And you said it here in New York. When I step outside, I want to get in a 3-point stance because it is football weather out there.
Absolutely. Look, we have a lot to get to. We're going to hit on every single one of the games, both today and then the Monday nighter in New York, New Jersey, with the Giants and the Cowboys. This has been an interesting week. A lot of movement in lines. So look, some of these lines we got earlier, and yet you will see as we go through here, some of these games swung wildly. One in particular that I'm excited to talk about because I think it tells you something about what might happen later this afternoon. There's an old saying, Vegas always knows. It typically does. All right, let's get into the games. No more hype, no more preamble here. We're going to start in the AFC. The Patriots are hosting the Ravens. The Patriots, a home underdog, not something you see very often with Bill Belichick. They're plus 124 on the money line. The Ravens, 2.5-point favorites. You could find it at 3 on most books throughout the week. It's dropped to 2.5. The over-under, 44.5. Ian, where do you fall on this game?
Really quick before I talk about this game, I do want to mention our records, Matt, because I did calculate our records this time. Last week, I forgot. Really quick, week 1, I went 8-7 plus 1.85 units. These are picks just on the show, so we are not including Thursday night games in these picks or in these records. You went 7-8 for minus 2.42 units, but Matt, you had a very good week 2. You had a fantastic week 2, actually. You went 9-6 plus 2.27 units, and I had a terrible week. I went 6-9 minus 3.55 units. So records heading into today, you are winning, Matt. If we're having a little competition between the two of us, you are ahead of me right now. You're at 16-14 minus 0.15 units. So basically even. I'm 14-16 minus 1.7. So I did want to get that out of the way. I forgot to talk about records last week.
Fair enough. I expect that trend will probably change, but we're having fun with it. Where do you see Baltimore and New England this week?
I'm on the Ravens here in this one. I got it at -3. The line has moved down 0.5 point down to 2.5. It's just the Ravens do have a lot of red flags on defense, so I expect we're going to see a lot of shootouts for Ravens games this season, and I just don't see how this Patriots offense is going to do in shootouts. We saw even last week against the Steelers, they scored 17 points, 17-14. The Ravens are going to score. Can the Patriots keep up? This was the line actually on Sunday. I place all my bets, or at least most of them, on Sunday night because I want to bet on them before the line moves. And this was actually the one I bet first because I thought the line move was going to move the complete opposite direction. It didn't. It stayed at 3 and then even moved 2.5 or 0.5 point the other way. So I was surprised by that. I just don't think the Patriots offense can keep up with the Ravens. So I'm gonna back the Ravens, but this is certainly one of the more popular bets of the week. If you're a fade the public kind of guy, you might want to go with the Patriots.
Yeah, look, I'm with you. I got them at 2.5, and I'm rolling with Baltimore. Look, they're just a much better team, and they're going to be furious after they lost that game in week 2. I think they come out with a purpose, and I totally agree. Look, the Patriots, they just don't have the horses offensively.
Right.
I don't think they can get to 27, 30 points in this game. I do respect the fact that Belichick might come up with something that just totally neutralizes Lamar in this game. But even with that, I don't believe in New England's talent. They did not look good against Miami. That Pittsburgh game was an affront to all things football. And then you have this game where I don't think it's a blowout, but I think the Ravens win by a touchdown. I think it's a close game. Ravens find a way to win. Just a more talented team. So we're both on the side of Baltimore here. You had -3, I had -2.5. And now let's go to the game that most people feel is the game of the day, the game of the week. Miami at home against the Bills. Now, this line is dropped a little bit. The Bills still favored, though, by 4.5 on the road. Totals at 52.5. Now, this game, there's a lot of movement because of all the injuries to Buffalo. Micah Hyde's now out for the season with a herniated disc. Jordan Poyer is not playing today. Tre'Davious White, of course, is on the PUP list. Dane Jackson had that scary neck injury. Seems to largely be okay, but won't be out there today. The Bills are without just about everybody in their secondary. Still 4.5. It was 6.5 earlier in the week. Where are you going? Are you believing in the Fins, or are you taking the Bills to get 3-0?
Yeah, really quick with the line movement. It's back down to 4.5 mostly because of the injuries. But this is actually where it opened on Sunday,
Yes,
and then after the Monday night blowout in the Bills' favor, and went up to 6.5, and now it's back to the original line largely because of injuries. So I got the Bills at -4.5. I got it Sunday before all the big line movement. And I will say week 3, in my opinion, is a big sell high, buy low on teams kind of a week. Teams that are getting a little bit overhyped after the first 2 games should probably sell high on, and the opposite with teams that have not performed well through the first 2 weeks. This one's a little bit of a strange one, though, because it's kind of like 2 sell high teams, because a lot of people are high on both the Dolphins and the Bills. But the reason why I like the Bills here, I know the Bills have injuries in their secondary, but the Dolphins defense has been the worst defense in the NFL through the first 2 weeks in terms of opponent yards per play, and specifically opponent yards per pass attempt. Teams are getting 8.7 yards per pass attempt against them, and now they have to take on Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. So it might just end up being a shootout with the Bills' injuries in the secondary, but the Dolphins have had the worst defense in the NFL through the first 2 weeks. So I like the Bills here.
I took the Bills at 6.5, and I'm still fine with it. Look, you know what? The problem I have with the Dolphins is twofold. You mentioned one of them, so I won't even go there, but the defense. Number 2, their offensive line is still not good. And against the Bills, that is a death sentence. You have to be able to block the Bills. Now, with all the injuries in the secondary, I think the Dolphins might go quick and play a little quick game and just try to get the ball out to Hill and Waddle and say, look, make a guy miss. Sure, but if you're Leslie Frazier and you're Sean McDermott, you also know that, right? So you're rolling up on the line of scrimmage and basically saying, try to beat us deep. Go for it. I don't think it's a blowout. I think the Bills win, though, in a game where you never really feel like the Dolphins are going to win the game. You know, something maybe like 30-23, 30-20, which I think I could see this total actually going under and surprising a few people. But I'm not going to go near the total. I'm just going to take the Bills, even though I got them at 6.5, so it's the worst way I could have taken them. I'm going to take them. I believe in them to win this game. I do think they're the better team. The problem I have, too, with Miami's played one good quarter of football. Like, 7 of the 8 quarters they've played this year, they've been average or worse. And then they looked unbelievable in one quarter. Am I supposed to believe 7 quarters or 1? So I'll say, now, that all said, if Miami wins this game, I'm in. Count me in. Even with the injuries to Buffalo. But I got to see it. I got to see the Dolphins go out and play against a team like this for 4 quarters and not have some game where Baltimore whipped their ass for 3 quarters, and then it's like just an unbelievable lightning in a bottle thing. Go out and prove you're the better team against a good team. We'll see. We're going to find out here in less than an hour as we flip over to the NFC South, a game that's not getting a lot of attention. Carolina Panthers at home against the New Orleans Saints. The Panthers 0-2, desperate to get a win. The Saints 1-1 coming off their loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Caesars Superdome. This game is in Charlotte. The Panthers, the slight dog at home. The Saints laying 2.5 points. That line was about 3 most of the week. Totals low, one of the lower ones of the week at 41.5. And let me just say quickly, the inactives today, not bad news for the Saints. Kamara is playing. Winston is playing. I am concerned about Jameis Winston with back fractures. He threw 3 picks last week. Did not look good. We'll see how he looks against the Panthers. Where do you sit on this game, sir?
This is my underdog upset of the week here. I'm actually taking the Panthers, and I'm taking their money line. I got them last Sunday at +140 here. I was just talking about how you should buy low on some bad teams this week. I think Panthers are a perfect example of a buy low team. 0-2, but to be fair, they've had a few bright spots through the first 2 weeks, specifically their defense. 4th in the NFL in opponent yards per play, 1st in opponent yards per pass attempt. So I know they haven't exactly played top-tier quarterbacks necessarily through the first 2 weeks, but it still is worth saying. They are allowing the fewest yards per pass attempt on defense. Baker Mayfield, we kind of know what we're going to get from him throughout his career, and that's a roller coaster ride. Some games he's going to look terrible. Some games he's going to look really good. He hasn't looked really good yet this year, so maybe this is a game he kind of gets things going. And I'm just not a believer in the Saints. We saw what happened with their offense last week. Jameis Winston, yes, playing, but he apparently has a fractured back, which is never good. So I'm just going to back the Panthers here. Division rivalry game. They're at home. I think they win outright.
I'll tell you what, this is the game of all of them. I had no idea what the hell to do with this game. No idea. The Panthers have looked awful. They lost to the Giants. They lost to the Browns. The offense has stunk most of the way. Mayfield's been terrible. Then you have the Saints, who barely beat your Atlanta Falcons week 1. Come out against Tampa. We both backed them last week against Tampa. And defensively, they were really good, but it doesn't matter because the offense couldn't score a point. I'm taking the Saints -3 for one reason in this game. I think defensively, the Saints are going to force Mayfield into some mistakes. That's it. That's the only reason. I have no feel for this game. I don't think either one of these teams are particularly good, but I think the Saints have a much better roster. So I'll take the Saints. I can just see Mayfield in this game going like 14-30 with 2 picks. But to be fair, I could also see Winston having that line. So I'm rolling with the Saints because I just think they're a better team. But if you said to me, what is the game this week? Anything's possible. This is the game. I can see the Saints beating them by 20 points. I can see the Saints getting blown out. Anything is possible. So maybe I should have just swallowed the points, or I should have taken the points. But I took the Saints -3. We'll see how it goes. That's a throw a dart game for me. And here's a game that I know we're on opposite ends of pretty much all year long with this. In the AFC, actually, I was going to say the AFC South, but only one team's from the AFC South. The Colts at home, +200 on the money line against the Chiefs. This at Lucas Oil Stadium, the home opener for Indianapolis this year. The Chiefs are 5.5-point favorites. By the way, in the latter part of this morning, it has moved to 5 in some books, even though all the money's on Kansas City. So the Chiefs, 5.5-point favorites. Total is 50.5. What say you about your Super Bowl pick, your Indianapolis Colts?
Yeah, you kind of alluded to it here. Very interesting game from a sports betting angle because it opened at 7 on last Sunday. And you mentioned that some books is down to 5. I'm looking at like FanDuel right now. It's down to 4.5.
Wow.
The Chiefs are one of the most heavily bet on teams, but yet the line is moving in the opposite direction. That's what we call reverse line movement. That's usually a sign that the sharps or the professional bettors are on the Colts. Now, I will say at the current line of 4.5, I actually don't see much value in the Colts. At the current line, I actually go the Chiefs. But like I alluded to earlier, I bet on games as soon as the lines are released on Sunday. I got the Colts right at that +7 number. I was very lucky to do so because in sports betting, 3 and 7 are magic numbers that you kind of want to bet on. So even though my pick is Colts, because I do think this is a buy low spot on them, I think the look ahead line for this week preseason, I think it was like 2.5 or 3.5 in favor of the Chiefs. So buy low spot with that many points, I was going to take the Colts. But with the line now down at 4.5, 5.5, I actually think the value shifts to the Chiefs. I think that magic number of 7 is a very big number now that it's down quite a bit lower. I mean, and I actually got this from you tweeting this out earlier in the week. Patrick Mahomes going up against the Colts defensive coordinator just tears them apart throughout his entire career. So with the number out right, even though my pick is a Colts and I'm sticking with that because that's locked in, at the current number, I would actually recommend the Chiefs, especially at 4.5.
It's weird. Like normally the rule is if money comes in on one team heavily, that line will go higher and higher. Like in this case, you'd see the line go 7.5, 8, because Vegas is trying to get somebody to bet the Colts, bring the money down. That has not been the case. The Chiefs, Darren Ravel put out that 92% of the money's on Kansas City this week. Now, if you're a believer in some of these type of things, you look at this and go, oh, God, this means the Colts are either going to win this game or play it close. I got to tell you, and everybody in the world knows at this point I'm a Chiefs fan. Early in the week, I really was torn because I think the Colts are better than they've looked. Like, I don't believe the Colts are this bad.
Right.
Conversely, Shaq Leonard is not playing in this game again. They play a defense that is very predictable. They play cover 3 pretty much 2/3 of their snaps. They're not built to play that because they played cover 2 under Eberflus for years, and it's mostly the same personnel. It's a much different defense. It has looked like that the first 2 weeks. They have given up a ton of easy completions to Davis, Mills, and Lawrence. Now you have Mahomes coming in, and Bradley has gone on the record multiple times saying, look, we're just going to play our defense. Well, if you're going to play your defense, I think the Chiefs are going to light you up. That's why I took the Chiefs -6.5. I got them at 6.5, which is not as good as 5.5, better than 7. Look, I just think in this game that Bradley and his hubris defensively is going to get them killed. Like I just don't think they can cover anybody. I think the Chiefs, I see Kelsey have 140 yards in this game. Like, if you're going to sit in a static zone coverage and the other part of this is too, if you have a great pass rush, you can get away with that a little bit more. Who's their pass rush? Like Buckner, love Buckner, but he's going against the Chiefs interior, which is the best part of their line. And Ngakoue's playing, but he has a back injury. He's been limited all week long. They don't have anybody on the other side. Like, I just envision a game where Mahomes has 3.5, 4 seconds to throw the ball against a defense that he knows where everybody's going to be on every play, and they're running cover 3 beaters. I think the Colts will make this a little more of a game than people think, but I have the Chiefs winning by like 10 points. Something like 33-23. Maybe it's something like 30-17, 30-20. But I think if you can get the Colts in a tease, then maybe I'm in there. I don't know, man. It feels like one of these games where everybody's like, well, the Colts have got to be better. And it's like, they can still be better and lose by 2 touchdowns.
Right.
But, we're going to find out. They've got to play better. And if they don't, it's going to be a bloodletting. But I expect them to bounce back at least a little bit this week and give them a game. All right. Let's shift. NFC North battle. 2 teams that are 1-1 on the year. Minnesota coming back on a short week. They lost to the Eagles on Monday night. They, on the money line, are negative 260 against, minus 260, I should say, minus 260 against the Detroit Lions, who won last week, beat Washington. This is the first road game for the Lions this year. They're plus 215 on the line. The Vikings were laying 7. Now they're laying 6. The total, huge. Tied for the biggest of the week, 52.5. What say you, Vikings, Lions?
Yeah, I'm on Vikings. This is a game I got a bad line because I bet it Sunday before the Vikings really crapped the bit on Monday. So I got Vikings minus 7. It's now down to minus 6. Obviously, I'd much rather have it minus 6, but I think this is a little bit of a sell high spot for the Lions, a little bit of a buy low spot for the Vikings after their bad game on Monday night here. But the Vikings are much better than they looked against the Eagles, and now they're going to go up against a much worse defense in the Lions. And this is going to be the case with the Lions all year because they actually seem to be scoring points on offense, but sometimes they just can't keep up with how many points their defense is going to give up. So you might even want to look at the over. I know that's a popular bet this week, but I'm going to lay the points with the Vikings. I think they bounce back big. I just think their pass attack is going to be too much for this Lions secondary.
I'm actually riding the other way here. We've been in a lockstep in a lot of these, but there's a second game in a row we're going opposite ways. I'm taking the Lions. Okay. I think the Lions are going to cover 5.5. And I'll give you this. I didn't take the money line. I think the Lions might outright win the game.
Whoa.
I do. Because look, the Lions can run the hell out of the football. The Vikings can't stop the run.
That's true.
Last year they split their games, and the Lions almost swept them. Needed a 50-some-odd yard field goal at the gun by Minnesota to win. Now, it's a Sunday afternoon game, which means Cousins is going to look like Dan Marino. Okay? This we know. All right? If they were to flex this to Sunday night, the line would be Lions negative, Lions at minus 13. I think the Vikings are the more talented team. The Vikings just scare the hell out of me on a week in, week out basis. You never know what you're getting, like what they are. The Lions, I feel like I know what they are. And you know what? The Lions, dating back to last year, 3 games in a row, they scored at least 35 points. The Lions can put it on you. And I don't know who the hell is guarding St. Brown in this game, who's taking Hawkins. Like, I'm going to take the Vikings to win very close, but I could absolutely see the Lions winning this football game.
It's interesting. If the Lions win this game, then they might be for real. They might be a legitimate playoff contender if they win this game. So it's certainly going to be an interesting one.
Very interesting indeed. I look forward to it. Another game in the NFC. We go to the NFC East. The Commanders at home, coming off that loss to Detroit we just talked about. They are a heavy underdog in their own building, plus 235 on the money line. The Eagles coming into town, 2-0. Everybody loves them, rightfully so. They've looked amazing. Minus 290, even though they are on the road in this game. The Eagles are laying 6.5 points. Big line. In fact, right now, the biggest line of the week, home or away. The over-under, 47.5 at FedEx Field. And we actually both took totals, but we went opposite ways here.
Yeah, some significant line movement in this game, especially on the total. Usually you don't see huge movements in the total unless there's injuries or like a huge weather update, but no injuries or weather, but this total has
No,
dropped 3 points. It opened at 50.5. That's where I got it on the under 50.5, down 3 points to 47.5. So I got a good number on the total. Also, Eagles, I think were 4.5 on Sunday before that big win on Monday, moved them up to 6.5. So I think I was talking about buy low, sell high. I think this is kind of a sell high spot on both offenses, actually. I think we're going to see a little bit of a regression from both offenses. Commanders' offenses look good, to be fair, through the first 2 weeks, but they played against the Jaguars and the Lions, two of the worst defenses in the NFL. So I think the Eagles' defense is going to get the better of them. And I don't think we're going to see the same Jalen Hurts and Eagles pass attack that we saw on Monday night against the Vikings. I think they're going to run the ball. They have one of the highest rushing play percentages in the NFL. Jalen Hurts won't look quite as good. I think the Commanders' defense might look a little bit better, especially in one area. There's one key area that the Washington defense has actually been good in that I think is going to play a big role today, and that's third down defense. They're actually fourth in the NFL in third down defense through the first 2 weeks. So that's going to play a big role. Obviously, if you stop teams on third down, they're going to punt more often. More punts lead to fewer points. So I'm going to take the under in this one. I think we're going to see a little bit more of a defensive struggle than what some people are expecting.
So you got the under at the highest the total was all week. I actually think the over at the lowest it was all week. So I got the over at 47.5.
We could both win. There is a world we could both win here.
Both win. We could both win. We could both walk away happy. I took the over at 47.5 for a couple of reasons. The Eagles' offenses look great so far this year. They lit up the Vikings. I know they only scored 24 points. They basically took the foot off the gas second half of that game. They had no reason not to. Week one, they lit up Detroit. Of course, Washington also scored a lot of points on the Lions, and as you mentioned, beat up on Jacksonville. I am not a Wentz guy by any stretch of the imagination, but he has played well to this point in the year. It'll be interesting to see what he does in his return to Philadelphia later in the year. But this game, look, I am very curious to see how these offenses play against secondaries that have some talent, specifically Wentz against the Eagles secondary. I'm curious to see how this game plays out. I think there's a lot of reason to like the over in this game. I understand the under. It's certainly not a crazy play. I take the over because I think it's one of these games where it's kind of a, hey, look, we know we've got to score some points to win. So let's throw the ball. Let's get down the field a little bit. I think Philly's going to win. I almost took Philly's line. My concern about the line, it's a divisional game. Divisional games always tend to be a little closer. These teams know each other. You're not as in awe of the other team, if that team's playing great. I think it's a fairly close game. I like Philly. I think it's like 27-24, something like that, 27-23. So I'll take the over. I don't think it's wildly over, but I think it ends up around 50 points, which if it's 50 points, we would both win.
And I'd like to say one thing about the side there. I think the line is a little bit inflated because of the Monday night performance by the Eagles, but also when I'm looking at the game, I also can't find a reason to back Washington either. So that's why I went total, because I think the line is a little bit too aggressive. I think should be at 4.5 where it originally was, but I can't look at this Washington team and justify a bet on them against this Eagles team either. So that's why a big reason why I went with the total.
I'm with you 100% on all points. All right, let's swing back to the AFC. We got 3 more early games, and we'll get to the late games. The Titans, the Raiders in Nashville, both teams 0-2, desperate times. Both teams banged up, by the way. Obviously, Landry and Lewan now out for the year for Tennessee. The Raiders without a litany of guys today, headlined by Hunter Renfrow, who's dealing with a concussion. Denzel Perriman, who's also out for this game. They're also down Andre James, one of their starting offensive linemen. Yet the Raiders on the road at 0-2, this is not something you see all the time, laying points, not many, 1.5. That line's been all over the map all week long. I've seen it anywhere from 3 to 1.5. It's not 1.5. The total, 45.5. So a fascinating game. Look, both these teams have to win, the Raiders especially. I know it sounds weird to say this. The Titans at 0-3 might still be a half game out of the divisional lead, right, the way everything's going, okay? Or a game out. The Raiders, I think the Raiders are already screwed. They're really beyond screwed if they lose this game, because the Raiders' next 2 games are Denver and the Chiefs. So you got to get out of the hole here. You got to win a game, and then that way, if you split those next 2, you're 2-3, you're still alive. 0-3, I think the Raiders are cooked. Where do you fall on the Titans and the Raiders at Nissan Stadium down in Nashville?
Yeah, this line released as a pick'em, which means basically a coin flip on Sunday. That's where I took it before the line moved in the Raiders' direction. I'm going to say the same thing that I've been saying about the Titans all season. That's why I bet against. I took the Giants on the money line in Week 1. I took the Bills to cover in Week 2. This Titans team, I think, is truly a bottom 5 team, and now they lost their best offensive lineman too. Like they're already not a great team. They're relying on Derrick Henry for their offense. He's having a regression of a year through the first 2 weeks, 3.9 yards per carry, I think. Now they lost their best offensive lineman. They lost their best defensive player in the preseason, and Harold Landry. Like this team is a disaster right now. I know they're still in the AFC South picture, and they will be all year basically. But they're not going to contend. Even if they win the division, they're going to get killed in the first round of the playoffs. Their roster is depleted. They're giving up AJ Brown doesn't look good because he's been fantastic with the Eagles. I think the Raiders win this game because even though the Raiders own 2, I actually thought they outplayed both their opponents in the first 2 weeks. So I think Raiders win this game handedly. This might be one of my better bets of the week.
If you outplay both your opponents and still lose the games, is that a sign of bad coaching?
Potentially through 2-game sample size, I wouldn't say just quite yet because there's so much luck and variance that happens in sports, especially in football. But if this is Week 10 and they still play the majority of their opponents and they're 3-7, then yes. But through the first 2 weeks, I might blame a little bit more just on variance and luck.
I'll say it's bad coaching. I don't think they're well coached. I also think that it's a little over the skis to say they outplayed the Chargers. Carr threw 3 of the worst picks you'll ever see in your life. And I know there are people out there who are like, well, turnover luck. It's not luck when you just throw the ball right at the other team. At some point, that's also just a problem. Although I do like Derek Carr. I don't think that's a continuous problem. I took the over in this game. Ooh. I took the over, and I got it. I got it at, I believe it was 46.5. So it actually dropped a point on me. That's okay. Here's my rationale. I don't think the Raiders can stop anybody. I am concerned in this game for my total that the Raiders sacked Tannehill approximately 37 times. I am worried about that, but the Raiders defense is not particularly good. I could see Henry having a big day, which could open up the play action pass. I think the Raiders are going to score a lot of points. Who the hell's covering the Raiders, even without Renfro? Who's covering them? The Titans are awful defensively. I don't know who. Byard, maybe you put him on Waller. Okay, you're going to bracket Adams. I mean, I guess. The line's not that high, though. The total's not that high. I think you can get 27-20, and you hit the over. So I'm going to take the over in a game that I stayed away from the spread because I just look at it and go, I don't know who the hell is going to win this game. I think the Raiders will win. If you said to me, you've got to go one way or the other, I would have taken the Raiders. But it's also... Look, it's the kind of game historically, and I'm going to say this again here in about 10 minutes about another AFC West team. It's the kind of game historically that you look at and go, yeah, they ought to win that game. And then the game happens, and you're like, of course they lost that game. Right. Of course they did. That's who they are. So I'm going with the total based off of that.
I will say really quick, just to add one more note about that game. Stephon Diggs got 12 passes for 148 yards and 3 touchdowns against the Titans on Monday night. So Devontae Adams is going to have a game. So if you want to look at prop bets, you might want to look at Devontae Adams.
Especially after Adams only had 2 catches for 12 yards against Cardinals.
Yeah, and no Hunter Renfrow. So
yeah, you see, you know the deal on the chat drops it in. Adams over 82 receiving yards and touchdown at plus 250. Yeah, I take that.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, I take that all day.
I will be betting that after the show.
All right, let's go to a game that I don't know that we have to spend a ton of time on here. The Bears at home against the Texans. The Bears getting the old customary -3 at home. The line is 39.5 in a game that could set football back 87 years. Are you going to watch this game? Are you going to block this out? Are you going to call the NFL and threaten a class action lawsuit because they're playing this game? Bears, Texans, Soldier Field under cloudy skies. Awesome. Can't wait.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to watch Red Zone like I always do on Sunday. I don't even know if I'm going to watch the game on Red Zone because it then might not show any plays. So I'm just sticking to my golden rule. I mean, I don't have a heavy handicap for this game. Both offenses stink. Both defenses are kind of below average. So I'm just going to stick to my golden rule of when 2 trash toilet bowl teams play against each other, take the team getting the points. I'll take Houston and hope it's close.
Look, man, I was going to take Houston as well. And you know what? I got the total at 40.5. I took the under.
Yeah.
I know it's a really low number, but last week I looked at the Patriots and Steelers and said, yeah, I'm cashing that under, and I did. I'm going to go under again. The Bears aren't going to score more than 17 points. So, do I think the Texans are going over 20? Yeah, probably not. I think this game's like 17-16, and it's just a dogfight. So I like your play at Houston at +3. I just can't. To me, the Bears can't score a point. They just cannot score. And I don't think the Texans are going to score 30. So I'm just going to take the under here. I think Vegas did all they could to get the line about as low as possible without being ridiculous. But I'm rolling under. I don't see these teams combining for more than 40 points.
Yeah, and I will say, when I was sitting down to handicap this game, I thought the Bears had the worst offense in the NFL, but actually dead last in yards per play is actually the Texans by a little bit.
Yeah, it's awful. Bears. It's so bad, man.
Two just terrible offenses.
It's not good. All right, let's move on for people, calling the SEC on us after talking about this game. MetLife Stadium is getting 2 games this week. One on Sunday, one on Monday. We start the MetLife doubleheader with the Jets +210 coming off a miracle win in Cleveland. They're at home against another AFC North opponent. The Jets, by the way, start the season with 4 straight games against the AFC North. This game against the 0-2 Bengals, who are still laying 6 on the road. The total, 44.5. You and I fall in the same bucket here on this game. Let me ask you this, though, before we even say the spread. If the Bengals lose this game, are they done?
yeah, they might be. Yeah,
I think they kind of are, right?
So.
And I've been a big back the Bengals guy. If the Bengals lose this game, I think it's curtains.
Yeah, I mean 0-3, and it's not like their division's easy. Like they got at least the Ravens to compete with. Browns. I mean, Browns are 2-1, so yeah, if they lose this game, that might be toast.
It doesn't feel good. All right, where are you going on this game? Because you and I are in lockstep here.
Yeah, and we haven't. At least last week I know we were too. But it just seems like the Bengals can't keep losing these games. I will say one thing that does make me a little bit more confident playing them this week as opposed to last week is they finally get to play a team that doesn't have a good pass rush. They had to take on the Steelers with TJ Watt week 1. They had to take on the Cowboys in week 2, one of the better pass rushes in the NFL this season. They finally take on a team who the Jets actually have a couple bright spots. I'm a little bit higher on the Jets than a lot of people are, but pass rush is not one of them. It's time for this team to get right. I mean, this O-line's too good to be giving up this many sacks. Joe Burrow's too good to be losing these games. I just have to. It's just going to be a hill I'm going to end up dying on. But I can't believe that the Bengals are going to keep losing these games. They have to get momentum at some point.
By the way, the line is up to 6.5 for the Bengals right now in some books. But you and I, look, we both took the Bengals. Okay, we both swallowed the points here. We both got them at 4.5. So I just look at this game and I very similar to you. There's no TJ Watt in this game. There's no Micah Parsons in this game. If you can't win this game, it's over. I am lower on the Jets than you are. The Jets are not good. If I got to listen to by the way, did you see PFF has Flacco as the 3rd best quarterback in the league so far this year? Excuse the language for all.
Hey, he's elite.
What the fuck are we doing? The 3rd best quarterback. They could score a point against Baltimore. They had 17 points for 59 minutes against the Browns until the Browns went full Browns, which, by the way, you never want to go full Browns, ever, okay? And yet they did it. The Jets, to me, are not good. By all rights, they should be 0-2, and they got handled in both games, and they had a miracle win in Cleveland. Look, I'm happy for their fans. They deserve it. But, they're not good. I know they beat the Bengals last year. I get it. I don't care that they beat the Bengals a year ago.
No, you shouldn't.
You shouldn't. Those things don't correlate.
No.
I think the Bengals will win this game running away. I think they can win by 2 touchdowns. That being said, if they don't win this game, if Flacco outplays Burrow and Burrow gets sacked 7 times in this thing, good night. Okay? The Bengals also, as it should be noted, on a short week next week, they play the Dolphins on Thursday night at home. So that could also be a game even if they win against the Jets, you got to win the next couple games. You don't want to be falling to 1-3 now. So interesting to note, look, they have lost to Trubisky and Cooper Rush. Can you beat Joe Flacco? Is Joe Flacco an upgrade over them? We're going to find out. What a shit show. All right. Let's go to the late games. There are 4 games in the 4 o'clock window. This is the only 4 or 5 game. The other one's all 4:25. The Chargers at home off a mini bye against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, before I say the line, this game had a ton of movement yesterday. Okay, a ton of movement. The line got slashed in half. You see it on the screen. Okay, the Chargers are without J.C. Jackson. He's doubtful, as is Corey Linsley. They're all pro center, but it would be shocking if either guys play. Okay, now the line went from 7 to 3.5. That is not because of J.C. Jackson or Corey Linsley. Herbert is questionable for this game. He's got the fractured rib cartilage. I have long believed that axiom I said at the top of the show. Vegas always knows. A line doesn't move like that for any other reason other than quarterbacks. Do you think that based on that line movement that Herbert is not going to play in this game?
Based on that line movement, I would say I think that line movement reflects what is happening, which is he's probably not going to play, but there is a chance. If he was completely ruled out, I think this line would have moved down even further to like 2.5. So
okay.
I think the line doesn't think that they're going to play or that he's going to play. And now if you're betting on this game, I would actually recommend just either one, betting whatever way you think is going to happen, or two, just wait until the official announcement is made and then place your bet, and try to place your bet before the line moves. Like get set Adams Schefter notifications on your phone or something. So as soon as the injury comes out, news comes out, go ahead and bet it the other way. I was an idiot. I took the over because I bet these games early. I should have just waited for the Justin Herbert injury news. So I've lost 5 points now based on the total of where the game is now. So I am certainly hoping that Justin Herbert plays, but even if he doesn't, this over still has a chance to hit. I need a lot of offense here. I bet the over in both of the first two Chargers games. Both of them lost. Both of them stayed under. Chargers, even last year, Chargers, in my opinion, are one of the hardest teams to handicap in the NFL because they're just kind of like solid at everything. They have no huge weaknesses. They have no huge strengths. So I don't really know. I just hope for a lot of points. Jacksonville has managed to score some points on offense in both of their first two games. I hope they can do the same against a little bit of a banged up Chargers defense. I don't know. Earlier you said the Saints and Panthers game was the game that you said you didn't know what would happen.
Yeah.
To me, this is my version of that game. Even if Justin Herbert was healthy and the line was at 7, I have no idea what's going to happen in this game. Okay. I don't know what to make of either team.
Okay, so this is why this is exactly why I never believe in the Chargers. This is why. Okay, everybody talked about the season before the season about, well, they're going to win the division, are they Super Bowl champs, are they Super Bowl participant, are they, whatever, all this stuff. And yet when we get into these games, people are like, you know what? I don't know if they can beat Jacksonville at home. It's like, you would never say that about Kansas City or Buffalo. Like, there's no way. Like, if Kansas City played Jacksonville at home, as they do later in the year, I defy one person if the Chiefs are healthy to be, geez, you know what? I'll tell you, I think Jacksonville's going to go in there and pull the upset. Like, nobody's going to pick that. Nobody. I had Jacksonville +7. I took Jacksonville earlier in the week.
Oh, okay. You got a great line.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I don't have the guts to pick it. I could absolutely, even if Herbert plays, I could see Jacksonville winning this game. This is the classic. I said I was going to say this again about an AFC West team in about 10 minutes, and here we are. This is the classic game over the years with the Chargers. Can't believe Herbert threw 3 picks, and they muffed a kick return, and then they gave up a punt return for a touchdown. Like, these are the games, or like Staley goes for 4th and 8 on his own 10-yard line. Okay, these are the games over the years the Chargers turn into crap shows. I will actually be very impressed if they come out and just handle Jacksonville this week. It would show me something. But this is one of these games where you could just see it coming. Like, the Chargers are all beat up. Jacksonville played great last week. I don't know if Herbert's going to play or not. And I got to tell you, if I'm on Jacksonville, look, you never want to hurt anybody or anything like that. If I'm Jacksonville and he plays in this game, I'd be blitzing him early. And I'd be seeing, how healthy are you? Obviously, I'm not saying like late hit him, but I'd try to hit him. I would try to hit him. Like, hey, how healthy are you? Are you willing to stand in the pocket? I give him all the credit in the world. He earned all my respect on Thursday night in that Chiefs game. But that's also a game where you haven't, your body hasn't gotten sore yet. You haven't gotten that adrenaline out of your body. Now he's got to come out and he's got to take it for 4 quarters. And you have a beat up offensive line in front of him. I actually think the Chargers should sit him, quite frankly, and get healthy. But I don't know if they will. I love Jacksonville +7. I even think they could just flat out win the game. We'll see how things play.
Yeah, it does kind of remind me of when the Chargers lost to the Texans last year. It just seems like it's one of those games.
It's just always one of those games with them. You look at them and you're like, there's no way they should lose that game. And then they get beat by 10 points. I don't trust them at all in this spot. All right. Staying on schedule, 425 games. Let's start with your team, the Falcons, on the road in Seattle. Seattle laying a point. 41.5 is the total. They're your team. Your Falcons. Take it away.
Yeah, I'm backing them on the money line here. I got them a little bit earlier in the week, so I got some decent odds at plus 120 on them. And I will say I'm heavy on the Falcons because I took them in my survivor pool as well. And survivor pools are getting destroyed early in the NFL season. Yeah. I'm one of the lucky people who's still alive in mine. I'm getting risky this week, though. And I'm taking the Falcons. I think the Geno Smith experiment is over. And even I think as this week, Pete Carroll said that he's going to let Geno Smith cook. And if that's the case, that's not good. He attempted, I think, 31 passes last week. It doesn't make any sense to me because the Seahawks can actually run the football. They're very effective at doing so. Why are they making Geno Smith throw the ball 30 times in a game? If he does that again, especially with the Falcons secondary being one of their strengths and A.J. Terrell and Casey Hayward, I just don't think the Seahawks are going to win. The Seahawks secondary is also bad. 29th in opponent yards per pass attempt. And we know that the Falcons' bright spot on offense is the receivers, is their pass catchers. I think Kyle Pitts is finally going to have a big game. The Falcons run into trouble when they run into teams with good defensive line and good offensive line, and especially defensive line. The Seahawks don't have much of a pass rush. So Mariota's going to have a bit of time. They have talent on offense. Geno Smith, for some reason, is probably going to throw the ball 30, 40 times again for some reason. Yeah. And I just don't think it's going to work out well for the Seahawks. So I think my Falcons finally get their first win of the season. But the Falcons have broken my heart time and time again. My entire life as a Falcons fan. This being the 1 week that I need them to win both for my bet and for my survivor pool, I guarantee you they lose. So I'm on this Falcons. I would recommend people take the Seahawks for that reason.
I had no idea what to do with this game. I'll be very brief. I took Seahawks minus 1.5. I don't know. They're at home. I don't think either team's any good. I think Geno stinks, but they're at home and the Falcons are going all the way across the country. And I said, well, you know what? I'll take the home team. That's essentially what it comes down to. I just took the team at home. I got Seahawks minus 1.5. So of all the games, this is probably the game that kind of threw my hands up. I was like, who the hell knows? I think that and the New Orleans Carolina game for me. All right, let's go to a really interesting game late in the day here. The Buccaneers at home to the Packers. Used to be an NFC Central matchup. Now just we get it once in a while. This line started Tampa -3. It is now Tampa -1. I have seen it this morning in some books at 1.5. The total. Here's something you don't often see. Brady and Rodgers in a game, and the total is 41.5. But that is a reflection of the fact that Ian and I are going to be starting at receiver for these teams today. So thoughts on a game that could actually have some big ramifications down the road?
Yeah, I got a good line on this one as well. I took Packers at the opening line at +3, actually. So it's moved 2 points in the opposite direction. The Buccaneers 2-0 straight up and against the spread through the first 2 games, but they've yet to score a touchdown in the first half. So their offense has not looked great outside of late points. They're doing to kind of late scores are making the final scores in these games look kind of more lopsided than what they actually are throughout the game. And they're only averaging 4.8 yards per play this season. So truly have been, a bottom tier offense through the first 2 weeks. Packers, despite only scoring 7 points in week 1, averaging 5.9 yards per play. So they rank 10th as opposed to the Buccaneers down at 26th. So I actually think the Packers, if you're looking for another small underdog here, I think the Packers could win this game outright. I think David Bakhtiari, I always mispronounce the last name, but the offensive lineman for the Packers, I think he's back. So I think their offensive line is finally going to be fully healthy. And now obviously with the issues with the Buccaneers at receiver. So I think the Packers should be favored in this game.
I do too. I took the money line because then they're going to win outright. Who the hell is Brady throwing the ball to in this game? They've nobody on the field. There's nobody healthy. The line's not good. They have no receivers.
Scotty Miller.
Awesome. I'm riding with the Packers on the money line. I think they win by a touchdown. The only fear in this game with the Packers is just Rodgers has had weird games against the Bucs in his career. Does he have another one? But I like the Packers. I think they're going to win. I think they're the better team right now. Tampa Bay is very talented, but half their talent's on the bench. So I like the Packers. I think they find a way to win this game. And look, if they do, they're 2-1. All of a sudden, you know what? You kind of forget about that Week 1 performance against Minnesota. So if you're the Packers, you'd feel good. If you're Tampa, your next 2 weeks, Packers, Chiefs, both at home. Next week's game against Kansas City Sunday Night Football, we'll see. But I'm interested to see how Tampa shows in this game. All right, a divisional game, an NFC West battle at 4:25. Cardinals at home against the Rams. Cardinals have been insanely bizarre this year. They get blown out by the Chiefs Week 1, which okay, fair enough. Then you come back, you're down 20-0 at halftime against the Raiders in Week 2. You look deader than hell, and you win in a wild, ridiculous game in overtime. Murray's running around on 2-point conversions, a 21-second 2-point conversion. The Rams on the road favored 3.5. Line's been pretty stable all week long. Total 48.5. One of the higher ones of the week. Of course, weather not a factor at State Farm Stadium with the dome. By the way, I will note, not that it matters, it's beautiful out. In Indianapolis, State for the Chiefs and the Colts actually opened the dome. So sun's shining in Indy for whatever if it matters to you at all. Probably shouldn't. But yeah, 3.5 for the Rams, 48.5 on the total. You and I, same boat.
Yeah, I got a bad line on this one, though. I took Rams minus 4.5. I do think Rams are the much better team. They've handled the Cardinals recently. I will say the Rams' injuries in their secondary makes me concerned heading into this game, though.
Yeah.
So this is certainly not a confident play for me. But I still don't think we've seen the best of the Rams through the first 2 weeks. We saw it for the most part against the Falcons, and then they just completely let their foot off the gas in the fourth quarter and let the Falcons get the backdoor cover. But the Cardinals secondary also has issues, and they're not even as banged up as the Rams secondary, giving up 7.7 yards per pass attempt.
Yep.
29th in the NFL through the first 2 weeks, and they blitz a ton, and Matt Stafford has historically been pretty good against the blitz as well, and I think that's a big reason why they handled them last year, especially in the playoffs. So I think the Rams are the better team. I got them at 4.5, but certainly not one of my more confident plays with the injuries in the Rams secondary.
I got them at 3.5. Look, my feeling on this is very, very simple. The Rams' big weakness is a pass rush against them. They can't block. The Cardinals have no pass rush. So, and I know they blitz, but if you blitz to get a pass rush, that's a hell of a lot different than having a 4-man pass rush.
Right.
Start taking guys out of the coverage. They also have no corners. Who the hell is guarding Cooper Kupp in this game? Who's guarding Allen Robinson? Like, I can see this being a big game. I'll tell you, I almost took the total as the over because I could see this being a game where it's like 35-31.
Yeah.
I could see that. I like the Rams. I know I'm taking a little bit of the hook here at 3.5, going over the field goal. I'll deal with that. I think the Rams are going to win this game. Look, the Cardinals to me have been absolute garbage except for about half of a quarter and then getting a scoop and score in overtime. What have the Cardinals done otherwise? Kingsbury doesn't inspire any confidence. Murray is electrifying at times. He's also confounding at times. Now, I will say this. The Rams also fall in that same bucket at times. You look at them and you don't know what is going on with them. But I think the Rams win this game. I think they win it by somewhere between 4 and 7 points. We'll see. But I love the overplay. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, just taking the over. I think that might cash by the middle of the third quarter. We'll see. As that over, by the way, again, sits at 48.5. Sunday Night Football. Interconference matchup. The Broncos at home at Mile High against the San Francisco 49ers, now helmed by Jimmy Garoppolo after the unfortunate injury to Trey Lance. The Niners, this is a line that was really interesting. This opened, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ian, I believe this opened as the Broncos being a 3-point favorite. It has moved all the way to the Niners being favored by 1.5, which, by the way, I think is the right line. I think the Niners should be favored in this game. They're a better team. The total's at 43.5. Where do you sit on this game?
Yeah, the Broncos certainly opened as favorites. I don't know if he's all the way up at 3 because I bet it pretty early, and I took 49ers money line at plus 115. So it did flip. I just don't exactly know how much. I think when I bet, I think the Broncos were 1.5 or 2-point favorites. But yeah, I actually think the 49ers are a better team right now with Jimmy Garoppolo, especially at this point in the season. Trey Lance might have had a higher ceiling that we might have seen by the end of the year if he played the whole season. But there was very clearly some early season growing pains for Trey Lance. So I think Jimmy G is actually going to help this 49ers team. Don't forget, this 49ers team with Jimmy G was a couple plays away from advancing to the Super Bowl last year. So don't make any mistakes. This 49ers team is very good. Their run defense is the best run defense in the NFL right now. As a whole, their defense is a top 3 defense in the NFL right now. And I just have no interest betting on the Broncos until I see Nathaniel Hackett not
beat Nathaniel Hackett.
Right. He has. Yeah. I forgave him for week 1. I was like, listen, bright lights, week 1, going into Seattle, first game as a head coach. But then he made the exact same mistakes last week against the Texans. Yeah, they won the game, but they should have won that game by so much more. So I have no interest in betting on Nathaniel Hackett. Russell Wilson hasn't looked like the Russell Wilson that they were supposed to get either. And now he has to take on the best defense. Like the first 2 defense he had to play were some of the worst defense in the NFL. Now he has to take on the 49ers defense. So I have 49ers in this game.
Would you like to take a guess at how many yards Russell Wilson has rushed for so far this season?
I don't think has he rushed at all?
5 yards.
12? Yeah.
5. Yeah. 3 carries for 5 yards. He looks like a statue, which if he's a statue, he's no longer a top 10 quarterback. So he does not look good. My personal favorite with Hackett in a game, by the way, where they had multiple delay of game penalties at home, my favorite was they were going to kick a 53-yard field goal in Denver. Not an overly difficult kick, right? Then they get a delay game because they don't know what they're doing. So it's a 58-yard field goal. Hackett, who the week prior attempted a 64-yard field goal instead of a 4th and 5, said, you know what? 58 yards in altitude, too long. And punted the ball. I mean, you explain that logic to me. Now the Broncos basically hired a coach for their coach to stand on the sideline and make game day decisions. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is going to be one of the worst hires I've ever seen in my life. Like, this is so comically bad. There's no way in hell I'm taking Denver in this game. Give me the Niners, -1.5. I should have probably been with you and just taking the money line. Look, what makes you think Denver's winning this game? What makes you think they're going to win this football game? And Hunter, our producer, says worse than Urban last year. No, I don't think worse than Urban, which is why I said one of the worst hires. Urban might have that title for the rest of my life. Like, I've never seen a coach who literally didn't know, like, who the players were on the field. Like, I can't get there. I don't think the players, like, hate Hackett like they hated Urban Meyer.
Right. I think that's the big difference, yeah.
Hackett's he's just so overwhelmed. Like, there's no ability to coach this team, to manage a situation. Like, it's just a disaster. Like, I think he's a good man who's just utterly over his skis. Whereas with Meyer, I don't think he's a good man who was also over his skis. I think Meyer basically looked at this and was like, paycheck, awesome. Like, I think that's about as far as it went with Urban Meyer.
Yeah, I think the big difference there is like the entire team clearly hated Urban Meyer. He tried to coach that team like a college team, and it blew up in his face. But Nathaniel Hackett might be liked, but he's not a good game. He's a
terrible head coach. Terrible. All right, Monday Night Football, Giants and Cowboys at MetLife Stadium. The Giants were laying 3, now they're laying 1. The total, the lowest total of the week, along with the Bears-Texans, 39.5. Your thoughts here on an NFC East matchup of epic proportions with the 2-0 New York Giants and the 1-1 Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah, I'm going to take the Cowboys. I got them when the spread was at 3. So I got Cowboys +3 here. Their defense has been fantastic through the first couple of weeks. And I will say, and this might be a little bit of a hot take, and I might end up looking very, very stupid when I say this, but I don't know if Cooper Rush is as bad as we all assume that he is. He started 2 games.
I think he's probably as bad as we think he is.
Hear me out. He started 2 games. Cowboys won both those games. He's thrown 4 touchdowns, only 1 interception, 7.7 yards per pass attempt. I'm not saying he's a starter in the NFL, but everyone makes jokes about Cooper Rush and how bad he is. I don't think he's, at least so far, he's shown he's not that bad.
I think he's terrible. He threw about 5 balls that the Bengals should have picked off last week. That all said, I'm taking Dallas on the money line. Look, I don't trust Daniel Jones. I don't trust Daniel
Right.
Jones.
Especially
I don't
against
trust
defense.
Cooper Rush either, but I think the Cowboys are a more talented team than the Giants. So I got to say, though, I find myself rooting for the Giants in this game. I got to be honest. Like the Giants have been garbage for so long, and now Dable's actually got them playing hard. So I actually am rooting for them. But at the same point, I don't see the talent level. Like they barely beat the Titans and the Panthers. The Cowboys, even without Prescott, are a step up from that. I like the Cowboys on the money line to go on the road and to win. By the way, I turned on the TV here in Indianapolis. There are more empty seats, I think, than Colts fans. So that may not bode well. That's rough. And the fans that are there, I would say, are 60% of them are dressed in red. So we'll see how that plays out. But yes, listen, we both did the Cowboys. You have them covering. Do you think they're going to win outright, or you just like them to lose close?
No. I think it's gonna be a close game though.
Okay. All right. I have them winning outright. We'll see. Look, that has been our week 3 pregame show. You got 5 minutes till kick. Go get some chips, go to the bathroom, get a beer, do whatever the hell you got to do. Thank you for joining Ian and I. We do this, of course, every single Sunday, noon Eastern, 11 o'clock Central, right up until kick. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. If you're gambling on games, hopefully you're making some money. That being said, thank you so much for joining us. Please hit the thumbs up on the way out the door. If you don't already, please subscribe to the channel. And I will be back Tuesday to break it all down with Sterling Holmes at noon on Tuesday afternoon. And then we'll be back next Sunday, week 4. Can you believe it? The NFL rolling right on. For Iain MacMillan, I am Matt Verderame. Enjoy your Sunday.